Blessings, everyone. It's Jules, and I am so excited about our guest. I have John Burgos with us today, and he's just amazing. We'll talk a little bit more about his journey and all the amazing things that he is doing. But I can just tell you right now, this is going to be an awesome conversation, just because that's what he brings every single time. But before we start, John, your DMT code that was randomly selected for you was the 9, which is mastering the matrix, or the matrix master? I know, right? So what are you master of? So I'm going to just turn it over to you. Welcome. And how does that, what does that spark in you?
Hmm. It's really it creates a flush of energy to go through me because when I hear that, it's like, wait, what does that mean? And that's a big job. And who would have the audacity to hold that, to speak that, to say, yes, I'm mastering the matrix, because it's such a humble journey that we embark on. No matter how much we know, the more that we know, the more that we know that we don't really know anything.
So true.
Right. And so there's a lot of humility that comes with that, but there's a lot of resonance also, because the platforms that I share from beyond the ordinary to leading private retreats to working one-on-one with people, or to collaborating with luminaries like yourself who are doing this amazing work for the world of bridging consciousness and bringing vitality into all areas of our life, including our spiritual life, um, is tremendous. And what does that require? To hold it in its integrity and in its truth. It's to get out of the box, to not create a box within a box, but to hold the standard for a cohesive field where we can go beyond the illusion of what our ego would prefer to be truth, and to break down the constructs that would create separation from truth because it's more convenient or more comfortable, and to hold the field steady for that truth, to not just set us free, but to set the collective free in the process as well. And so mastering the matrix, if you will, it's so much of my life's work, because I am such a truth seeker in that way of the highest alignment that I can hold, so that I can hold that steady enough so I can get to the next highest alignment, because that self-love is so important, but because just the beauty and the love that I see in others, and those places that I can intuitively, psychically connect to, where it's like, oh, if we can just heal this or adjust this or hold this long enough, then that veil of separation and the suffering along with it would end for that person that I'm witnessing through. So it's a mission, and it's why I do what I do. I can't even call what I do work. It's doing life and co-creating it with others.
I resonate with everything that you said. It feels, there's a saying I always say is, once you reach a level of truth and self-actualize in it is when you let it go and let it take you to the next level of truth, because that's where we create the illusion, right? Is that we get locked into any one truth. I think that is mastering the matrix. So let's keep going with that. What are some things that you do on a daily basis that I know hold yourself in those frequencies where you can actually participate in moving past each level of truth?
Hmm. There's several things, and they come in seasons. I used to work out religiously all the time, and it was part of my meditation and getting into my body and my physicality. And then I go through seasons of 6 months where it's like, no, you need to sleep, you need to rest, you need to integrate. And to break out of the pattern, well, I have to do this in order to get here, is something that I've been learning very profoundly over the last few years. It's not about getting anywhere for me. It's about where I can be. In my meditations, I don't try to let me visualize, let me listen, let me relax, let me be at peace, let me connect with my guides, let me fix this problem. It's really stillness. It's being quiet and being attuned to whatever inspiration wants to have a relationship with you at the time. And sometimes it's nature, sometimes it's the lawnmower outside. A lot of times my guides come in and I get messages because I feel I'm quiet enough and within myself that the matrixy type of energies lift and that direct connection becomes more clear in the channel. And what a gift to be swimming with the divine. I mean,
So,
that's where we're always looking to go, but we get so distracted that we don't, a lot of times we don't pause enough to know, wait, it's right here. I'm looking for home and I'm right here sitting on the mat with it. It's 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 crazy. So the stillness part is really important for me. And I try to go there every morning, but at least a few times a week. Sometimes sitting in a tea ceremony, just pouring and sipping just for presence to take time. Sometimes I can be jumping out in the pool, just swimming, but being quiet, not trying to get somewhere with exercise, but just being with the water. Sometimes that means getting on a Zoom call with someone that I resonate with, presence, and that comes through. So that's that connection is so important to me. An important part in our spiritual community that gets bypassed tremendously. It's like, I don't know why I can't connect and my body's run down and I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do there, or I've got this illness running through, or why can other people see and I can't? It's people really need to look at what they're putting in their bodies and what they're supplementing with. The physical body has to be in attunement as well. And you can go out and talk to the Pleiadians or Delirians or the Andromedans or your guides or whatever, but unless you can anchor it into your body and have the support chemically to be able to hold the light quotient that you're absorbing from going to those places, then your physical body is going to suffer. Your mental function won't be able to keep up with the intelligence that is being transmitted through you. You don't have to understand it immediately, but I find that it is a building process of attuning, assimilating, and then our embodied light becomes a physical expression of what we create with and what gets reflected back to us through that relationship. And so again, supplementation, what we're putting into our bodies, being aware of that, not being rigid, but aware. And again, and being intelligent enough to support the neurochemistry, the balance. It's huge. And so those things for me are just paramount.
as you were talking, there was like this attuning process that was happening just with you connecting into the information that you were talking about, because our body does attune. So if we're putting junk into our body, or if we're not taking care of our body, it's holding a certain frequency. And I say this a lot, and I've been really sitting in this too on just cell ascension, because we're so focused on ascending consciousness, and I feel like the body is the one place that a lot of times kind of gets left behind. It almost becomes this burden, if you will, when we're trying to get to these higher places consciously. But I feel like the opposite is starting to happen within the collective, as people are starting to realize, okay, not only is the body not a burden, but it actually holds the technology that can bring our consciousness to a space where we can actually experience the superhuman. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, I think it's both. I think a lot of people are very attuned to their body and the sacredness of their vessel in a particular way and get very strict and methodical about maintaining that vessel and don't loosen up enough to access those higher realms. And vice versa, as people are accessing the higher realms, like forget my body and I'll go do a yoga practice and whatever just to like, because it helps me connect to that. But where's the reverence to the body as well? So when we can merge those temples as one and not be at war one against the other, or think that one is the way and the other isn't, but we can allow for the unification of the consciousness that are really working as one. We just separate them because we have our preference and our experience.
I find that really interesting because, you know, the one thing that kind of creates timelines and all of the looping cycles and the distortion and is observation. And then we're observing through our programming, and which is just creating more looping cycles. And then it's also our ego is the one thing that needs to be separate from the body, but also separate from the higher states of consciousness that we move into when we are evolving consciously. So everything is like separation, separation. And I love how you're bringing it into this place of unity, but then there's still going to be the observation of even that. So, and of course, that's my passion, is to move consciousness into the intelligence where we actually become an intelligence beyond observation. But let's take it there, because this is what I love about you, is you're so willing and you're so tuned in that we can have something really special come in right now.
Yeah, where shall we go?
I don't know. I guess the question would be, what do you see just as you're tapping in to your practice, your experience of what's possible within the body? What do you see the human race becoming when we start to activate this other 90% of human potential?
Oh my God. It's, we become that consciousness that we channel through us, that we try to reach on a continuous basis. So I'm asked, who do you channel? It's, well, I'm channeling who I'm becoming, right? And I heard this so beautifully spoken about from Paul Selig, who's an amazing channel, and then speaks to a Melchizedek collective that he brings through. But it's like, who are you channeling? I'm channeling that which I am becoming. And so, again, that place of home, that place that we're getting back into the center of ourselves. If separation doesn't exist within us, then our capacity to create separation is diminished. There's no need for it. And when there's unification that takes place, it's what's possible from that place. It depends on the consciousness in which we hold it in.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of power that comes into being. What is the intention for you to access that place is one. And that can be the ego, but still that little thing is still driving which direction. How do I choose to observe this? When we get into those states of such stillness that we're self-generating power centers, where are we pushing that consciousness towards? And seeking relationship to our energy, to our consciousness. And then what is our why for connecting from that place? And it's not what happens when we get there, it's what's our why of getting there. And when we understand our why of getting there, then there's a force of creation that emerges from that impulse that's beyond desire. It's just you can't help but to be who you are. And in that essence, creation occurs. Well, what is it that you've cultivated in the environment, in the essence of you, that's going to push in a certain direction? Because as a power source, you can't help but to emanate energy. And so more importantly, it's like, who are we choosing to become and emanate as in creation? And everybody gets, the individual energetic center will have influence. Now, what that means for the collective, how are we raising our children? How are we building our corporate structures? How are we referencing new religious understandings, taking them away hopefully from dogmatic interpretations into evolving consciousness. How are teachers like you showing up to share a perspective of what's available, and then how's that going to influence the choice of an individual who is actualizing their own power center and what they do with that will? I love, a lot of people talk about AI, and there's a lot of fear around AI that runs, and a lot of excitement as well. I see AI as a mirror of what is happening to us on a conscious level and what we're able to create. The one thing about AI is that the more specific you are with the information that you give it, the more precise the output's going to be. So our ability to create as human beings is being mirrored by AI. The more specific we are holding an energetic frequency, the more specific the outcome of that creation. And so we're learning to become master manifestors through these technologies as mirrors that are showing, hey, if I can hold that thought long enough, if I can hold this impulse long enough and create enough of a large wave, it's going to impulse towards a certain creation that I'm emanating from. A lot of Joe Dispenza's work, right? It's like what you hold long enough will be the creation that you're capable of doing. So if you want to look to where we're heading, look at the technologies that are emerging as a mirror for what we're involving within this magnificent human computer body temple that we're working with. And again, where do you want to put your energy? What are you going to do with that force? And why? Always, why am I doing it? And to get into that, pretty remarkable and awe-inspiring. Yeah.
So what is your why?
It's funny that you went into the DMT codes and the 9 came up, and I also love studying the different types of enneagrams, the teachings, and gene keys. My cities and my life purpose is freedom. It's freedom and freedom. And I resonate with that so beautifully. My why is I have an innate wiring for truth. And it's not a radical truth, pointing things out, and it's not one of those that's warring for truth. It's holding the field of truth. It's beyond the warring. There's never been a war that has ended another war. So why would I even go there? And there's so many truths within a given reality that who am I to deny somebody else's experience of a truth? But then there's an emanation point, an origin of consciousness that we have a relationship with, and a purity and an innocence and a mastery that exists from that place. And so the deliverance of myself and others into getting as close as we can in this human consciousness to that northern star is what motivates me. It's the freedom that it engenders. It's the end of suffering that it brings. It's the creative outlets that it provides, because we are capable of living in a unified field of creation where the individual is honored for their genius that they bring into the dynamic, and it ripples out being a positive effect for the all. And so that's the why that keeps inspiring me.
I love that. I've been, it's funny because I had somebody ask me that, why do you do what you do? And it, and I, just similar to what you said, but it got to this place, and it definitely, when it starts out as curiosity, and then you kind of start studying, and then you start living it. And for me, I got to a place where it got so turned on, and not turned on in a place that I can't have any control, right? Like my ego, my consciousness is just along for the ride now, that something took over. Like my body activated a frequency that has an intelligence that's leading the way. And there's nothing I can do to turn that up at this point. It's like, all right, I'm either all in or I'm in resistance of my own experience.
You can help but to be you. And I go there also. And whenever people ask me what their purpose is and why they're here, it's my answer always is, and it's first of all, this is happening for me. I am having an experience to be able to be in resonance with an omnipotent force that is gifting me experiences for the sake of the experience, for the sake of my curiosity, for the sake of my journey and the plethora of opportunities that are available so that I can experience that divinity within myself. So first and foremost, it's the why is always as I'm in relationship with this omnipotent force that I know must exist, and I have relationship with it in my own way, but that's driving me forward, and I don't know what it is, why I'm so motivated to be driven forward, other than I'm just amazed at what comes through. I'm at a place that my cup is so full that I can't help but to give from that overflowing cup. I'm not in service and keep draining myself on a consistent basis because I see others suffering and they have to have something before I can have something. No, I'm aware that as I'm replenished, as I overflow, that abundance can never be extinguished. And
That's such
that
a great point. I feel like that's something that we're all going to hopefully have a little bit of focus and to fine tune this year, being in an 8 year, that
mm,
we learn what it is on the other side of the illusion of abundance, and that it really is just a pure energy, that when we win, everybody wins. Because I think so often we get sucked into this place where, well, if I take, somebody else loses, or that kind of, well, duality around what it is to have an exchange of energy. But on the other side, there's so much energy. Is it even really being exchanged? Or are we just in a conscious reflection of what that really is? So that would be a fun place to go next.
yeah, that's such a great question. And it's infinite. Again, I I would be of the philosophies that we're under the illusion that it's separate and that we have to get it from one another. That's just, and I am also of the philosophy that it's such a gift to have the experience of receiving from another in this human form. And so it's set up for us to be able to have this relatability from the source that I would say emanates from our heart, and heart connection to another heart connection. And it just amplifies through the excitement of connection what already lives inside of us. And it seeds and it generates more. And it's like, wow, that's available. It's like it motivates the experience. It amplifies what's possible that already exists inside of us. But again, that we get to experience because of this interaction, this awareness and relationship to other things, people, places, experiences.
There's something that's coming in around that. So it's the observation of an expression that we're already holding. There's
Mm.
something in there where so I feel like the evolution of the, I don't know if you want to call it the new heart, the advanced heart, the quantum heart, maybe, is, in my experience, is holding a field outside of emotion.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, because I feel like as humans, we concentrate a lot on our emotions. We want to have an emotion, we want to get rid of an emotion, we want to whatever we get wrapped up in emotion. And as the deeper I go into what I'm calling the quantum part, it's like the portal there, we definitely move into a field beyond emotion. And so when we're in an exchange of energy, it feels very different. It feels very pure because it's
Mm.
only frequency. There's no emotion behind that frequency. And you have to almost step back, be like, shouldn't I be feeling something? But we're still feeling something. It's just pure. It's very clean and it's in that frequency. So I'd love to hear what your experience is in the exchange as you continue to kind of move into your quantum experience of the body.
I love the way that you're explaining this, and that brings me to the awareness that when we create expectations of a person or place or thing to give us an experience,
Mm.
then we're in that observer taker type of role, right? And and what that creates with enough of those situations as we start progressing through our consciousness, and there's something out of balance here and it doesn't work, and that heartbreak still happened. I still lost money there. I still got triggered because of this. I still was chasing this because I wanted that. And we're like, wait, there's something about this formula that just doesn't work because these things keep repeating over and over again. And no matter how much I try to avoid them or steer towards them, they're not quite landing in the way that I feel like I'm connected in a deeper place where I can finally feel that safety, or like I finally arrived. There's this constant loop of chasing. And we finally get to enough place where we experience this enough that we get to that pause place. Like, wait, let me slow down just enough to pay attention in a way that perhaps I haven't been paying attention to before. And then that slowness, and you slow down enough, and it's quickening for a lot of people to get to this place. And of course, all traditions spoke about it in different ways. The Buddhists were wonderful about having no expectations, about letting go of the mind, right? Amazing practices. But what we finally get to is realizing, wait, that thing, that place, that person, they're not my source. And you breathe in a little bit, and they're not my supply either. The house, the money isn't my source. It's not my supply of this connection into that stillness that has a process of creation so far beyond this chasing, getting dynamic, that once you touch the purity of that, and some people touch it through plant medicine, some people touch it through meditation, some people touch it because of the birth of their child, whatever that impetus that ignites, turns on that light switch, hold on to that awareness. It may flow as an emotion, as an experience, but there's something larger that tends to permeate your field when you touch that. And again, whenever you get into a situation where it feels like the mind's taking over, wait, that's not my source. That's not my supply. My source is this liminal space. My source is God. My source is this creation space as you speak about it. And the more that we can pause in that stillness, the void space, if you want to call it that 0 point, and feel the vastness that's available there, our ability to reach out in a particular direction and pluck an experience from that field becomes an experiment that we get to play with in the moment, and having relationship with that cohesive field. So again, you'll know it. It's like you'll hit that still point piece, the ecstatic but super calm simultaneously. It's like, there it is. And then where are all those things that would point me away from that? And why would I keep wanting to go to those things? Like, they don't satisfy me in the way that they used to anymore. It's like there's an emptiness. And that has just been there, done that. I've watched that episode, I've watched that Gilligan's Island episode 10,000 times. I know what's going to happen. I wonder what could create anew from this overflow, because in that place where nothing is your source or supply, only your connection with that. It's what's more exciting than that?
Agreed. It's the, I feel like that what you just kind of, what's coming in for me is that when we do get to that place where we're so aware of what the looping cycles are, we're so aware of, am I in my programming, or am I in the stillness or the void, and am I creating from that place, is when magic comes in,
Right.
because we're in co-creation with an intelligence, and we lean on that so much that we just fully, I have this thing, it's like you go from hope that it can be different, and then you move into, okay, I trust it's going to be different, and then you move into, okay, I believe that it's going to be different, and then when you hit this place that you're talking about, we just know. And
Mhm.
the knowing is on a full body level, where belief isn't even a thing anymore, because you just know what you can't see, what you can't, it's that kind of space. And that truly is the superhuman experience, is when you know through an intelligence that's beyond the matrix, going back to your code that you got. And that is a level of mastery, and that you trust in the knowing over what is constantly hitting us through the observation of the matrix.
Absolutely. And again, culture is so wonderful at creating stories for our experience, and then we make those
Yeah.
stories true. So you look at religion, it's like you had this man who died in a cross, and he suffered for the world, and he suffered so he can give up our sins. And then the opposite end of that, and there's this dark realm where this demon exists, and if you're not a good person, you go there. And so people like, let me fight the demonic energies, let me fight the density. There's a fight there, and then you get to another level of awareness, like, oh wait, oh no, there's this other element that's coming in. It's told through this other archetype of story, but I'm still sharing my reality like it's from this story. And then you get to a place where it's just energy. The story does, oh, this is density. This is what heavy energy feels like. Wow, okay, cool. This is what expansionary energy feels like. Awesome. And we don't have to attach stories to them and create wars where the demon's the bad guy and this light being is the good guy. It's energy that's running the show. And I'm not saying that again, there's realities in everybody's experiences. But ultimately, the truth runs in the energy of that story. Truth is truth is truth. We relate to stories. We can put ourselves in stories, but where have we gotten stuck as the character in the story and haven't evolved to come to this level of, I can create any story that I want, and then the story isn't even necessary because I can be in relationship with the reality instead of the fiction that I'm hoping is going to lead me to the reality that I'm chasing.
Well said. That you just nailed it. I feel that because there's this big movement on exposing the truth. And what we have to remember is that every level of truth is going to be part of the illusion until we attune to this intelligence so much that there's very little separation from consciousness and the intelligence. And I have a saying that if you're conscious of the intelligence, you're still not there, right? Because we're in observation
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
intelligence.
right.
And it's like once we fully become the whatever God source, the intelligence, however you want to see it, we aren't going to be having this conversation anymore, right? We're just going to be speaking as the intelligence, because there is no reflection on what that would be. But until then, I feel like what you said it was so well spoken, and that the awareness of where we're pulling ourselves into the illusion and creating stories is a huge part of evolving into the new human experience, is to pull back and really know that even that is going to be the illusion. And what am I resting into? The knowing, a belief, or a story?
Mm. Yeah. And where am I creating separation or am I creating unification? always great to feel into, oh, if I'm creating separation, how can I get back into unity consciousness? Because unity consciousness is where I'm emanating from and where I want to head. So if I'm creating anything outside of that, then I'm really condemning myself, because I'm separating myself, that which I want and desire and truly am from. I am the beingness of this place of origin. And so if I'm creating, he's right, he's wrong, she's this, she's that, money's good, money's bad, if I'm creating from that place, or hold that, or if only this person would do that, or if only this religion would do this other thing, it's like we're we're creating the separation within ourselves automatically. We're condemning ourselves in the process, and we have to educate ourselves more about this. The more that we educate ourselves and our children about the separation that we create within ourselves, the less that separation will be created outside of us. The more that the separation outside of us will have to shut down within itself, because it's not being fed
Yeah.
what it needs in order to survive.
Which is basic quantum physics. I mean, this they
Mm.
it's so interesting to me that we actually do have science now backing up that what we focus on and where we're focusing from creates
Mm.
our reality. Yet we're still looking into the illusion to find the truth. And but like you said, I feel like that education is the awareness of, am I here or am I here? Am I in my programming or am I attuning to, and that's the practice, right? Because we're always going to be practicing it on how high we can hold our consciousness and how we can integrate into the body and all of the different stuff. You're genius. Like, I love listening to you because you speak it so beautifully, and
Thank you.
I honor you in that, John, because I know that this interview is going to change people's lives. You did.
Mm.
I mean, you truly are the channel, right? You are the master of the matrix. And in that, you know how to hold yourself in the frequency as a channel and speak the truth in a very beautiful way that is going to change others. And you're not doing it from this place that because you want to be the change, you're doing it from a place of authenticity. And it's really beautiful. I feel that from you.
Oh, I appreciate that. We can't help but to be who we be. So it's, we can
Well,
surrender
you
into,
can
into the truth of
actually. There's a
that.
lot of people
Well,
that would
well,
not
they
achieve
can
that.
try, but they can't escape themselves. And so it's
That's true.
right. And again, it's the trying to be somewhere else. And again, the whole paradox of this is that we're trying to make sense, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, this human heart that wants to make sense of something that you just can't make sense of. Science will never catch up. We will never, as humans, catch up into this awe that keeps guiding us forward somehow, that motivates us to not extinguish ourselves and go, okay, lights off because we're done, we're tired. Um, it's like this doesn't, there's something inspiring in, if we can try fighting the intelligence so much and be with the intelligence, if we can stop trying to control the intelligence so that we can feel safe enough navigating it, if we can trust where the intelligence has guided us, instead of thinking that, okay, it's guided us so far, but what's going to happen tomorrow? If you're still taking a breath today, that intelligence has served you pretty well. You've overcome probably some significant challenges, some life experiences that you probably wouldn't want other people to experience. You've survived heartbreak, financial ups and downs. You've survived witnessing or perhaps being a victim of war, of rape, of abuse, of neglect, of bullying, racial discrimination, age discrimination, sexism. I'm sure every one of y'all can relate at least to one of those. And if you're taking your breath now and you have the luxury to have internet connection and a device on which to watch this from, I bet you there's something inside of you that can trust that intelligence where you don't have to make sense of it, but really allow yourself to be run by the faith that created what's running through you. Who's running through you? The beingness that you are, because you're fucking amazing.
Agreed. Amen.
Right? And who created this amazingness? What created that something that, and I'll just say thank God
Yeah.
for that, and thank God for you.
Mm,
I don't have to make sense of you to know that there's an essence that immediately I feel into and I can't help but to love.
that's
Makes no
beautiful.
logical sense. It just is.
It just is. It just is. I feel like that is the next level. That is the 90%. It's to put focus, our attention in that frequency that we can't see, right? It's just something that we sense, or your intuition, your inner powers, however you want to see
Yeah.
it.
But we're having more awareness of, and that's the beautiful thing as we surrender. It's like, whoa, I just had a new relationship with this. I'm getting to know it more deeply. And in that, I'm getting to know myself more deeply. And it's this reciprocal, just tsunami of expansion that as we drop into that and get to know ourselves through that experience, and then relating to our environment based on that experience as what's informing us next. That's exciting.
It is exciting. It's
Yeah.
the only way to live. It's the only
Mhm.
way to live. Well, John, I feel like I would shout out to where you would want people to go and connect to you.
Oh my goodness, go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com. It's where I interview amazing speakers and teachers like Jules
Mhm.
um, on the show, psychics, channels, and it's all really, the conversations are really here to bring consciousness and to bring awareness and how we can attune again to being our own source and supply in different ways, where we get to step into innocently and humbly into our mastery. And we're really being called to a place of that mastery. So again, amazing speakers and teachers on there. And if you want to work a little bit more directly with me, go to johnburgos.co and you'll find more about me and some of the things that I'm doing, and more to come. But that's a great place to connect.
Beautiful. And we'll have those links in the show notes below as well. So if you're driving, or just know you can just go and connect him directly there. John, thank you for bringing your wisdom and your brilliance and just your share. It was epic.
It's so fun being with you. Thank you for your heart and your consciousness and your willingness to explore in those realms and then bring that intelligence to us, even though it may be way ahead of its time. Thank goodness for people and other leaders like you who are willing to put yourself out there ahead of the curve and be a beacon for what's possible. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening. We hope that you'll take the inspired wisdom that came through today and really bring it into your heart space and connect to the intelligence within you to take action to experiencing your superhuman. Until we meet again, sending you so much love.